you.
Good morning! I am so tired. We went to Huntington Beach last night for an event, and we didn't get home back here to Julian, California until 1 in the morning, which, if you know me, you know I go to bed shortly after sunset, which these days in California is like 5 p.m. So my bedtime is usually about like 7:38 if I'm feeling frisky. I'm so old. So last night was great. We just got home a little late. So, good morning. Today we are reading from chapter 4. It's called Thankful for Snaps. Um, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read from the book, and then I'm going to walk you through the resources, and then I'm going to do some like housekeeping type stuff, which I think will give us enough time to get caught up on the delay. So if at any point in time during any of this you have a question about last week, or you have a question about any of the previous weeks, or any of the stuff that's going on in this chapter, feel free to pop those into the comments. I think we're on a little bit of a delay here, so I don't want to like log off before you've had a chance to ask questions, because I'd love to answer questions like while we're all still here and not just in the comments. So if at any point you have a question or something that you want to share or anything about the previous weeks or this week or just stuff that's going on in your life, pop that in the comments so I can respond to it when we're done with the reading part. Cool? Sweet. So, Thankful for Snaps starts on page 65 if you're following along. To get you up to speed if you've missed out on what we've been doing so far. I introduced myself in chapter 0. In chapter 1, I told you about how 2014 was terrible. Chapter 2, we talked about how I started shopping for hiking stuff and I didn't judge my body, which was kind of the really like little start to the healing journey. And then chapter 3 was the first day on trail. So now we are waking up after my first night of sleeping on the Trans Catalina Trail. Here we go. I'm just letting you know, I'm probably going to giggle a lot during this one because this is a pretty funny chapter. So, all right, Thankful for Snaps starts on page 65. Chapter 4. When it was quitting time, I got in my car, plugged in the address for the drop zone in my GPS, and made my way west out of the city to a little town off Highway 30 called Hinckley. I got out of town just in time before traffic got wild and all the streets shut down for the parade. As I pulled off the main highway to get onto Highway 30, I started seeing familiar sights from the weekend before when I made a tandem skydive. First, passing through Aurora, then Big Rock, then Hinckley. As I pulled into the gravel lot, my heart started racing. For the first time in a long time, I was choosing something for me. Not because my parents suggested I try it, not because my friends were doing it, because I really, truly wanted to, and I didn't care if I didn't know anyone out there. I felt empowered as I got out of the car, walking toward what I hoped to be a very exciting chapter of my life. If only I had known what I was getting myself into. Once I parked, I took a deep breath. I had been blasting Kelly Clarkson on the drive out to the country to get pumped up, and I let the song finish playing before I got out of the car, not wanting to interrupt the empowerment session. I'm superstitious like that. I took off my seatbelt, grabbed the skydiver's logbook they had given me the weekend prior, and walked to the small aircraft hangar where I was told to meet Barry. As I stepped over the short fence between the parking lot and the courtyard, I stumbled, feet knees face, into the grass near the volleyball court. Shit. This is a sport that requires at least some level of body awareness, and I just crashed and burned, not even 5 steps in this experience. Shit. I dusted myself off and looked around. Did anyone see that? The place was mostly empty. Only a red Jeep Wrangler in the lot and a black Range Rover. I saw a guy sitting on the picnic tables, tall and lanky, sun-weathered skin, smoking a cigarette. "Excuse me, do you know where I can find Barry?" I asked. He motioned toward the hangar behind him. I stepped inside and saw Barry. He was about my height, and I'm 5'4" on a good day. I saw a tattoo on his calf and one that wrapped around his ankle. He walked over and introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Barry," he said, extending his hand for a handshake. His eyes were kind, his smile friendly, his demeanor confident. I reached out and shook his hand. "Sydney, nice to meet you." The rest of the evening was a blur. He showed me the equipment I would be using, pointing out all the components that would save my life. We talked about what we would do on the skydive. He took me over to the parked airplane and we talked about safety around an aircraft. He explained the structure built to represent an airplane door and showed me how to position myself to exit the aircraft safely. We talked about emergency procedures, what happens when your parachute malfunctions, how to handle it. It was a lot of information. I'm an active listener and I like to confirm my understanding by nodding and saying uh-huh or something affirmative to show that I am comprehending the information. At one point in time, Barry looked at me and asked, "Are you actually listening? Or are you just nodding and saying uh-huh?" "Oh, I'm listening," I retorted. The final portion of this ground training was a written exam. Being the gold star earning, good grade getting student I was, I got all of them right except for one. He told me that he had been teaching skydiving for more than a decade and that I was the shortest ground school he had ever taught. We were done in less than 4 hours. And he said he had never had a student do so well on the test. He was impressed. I could tell. That night, I drove back home to my apartment in the city, and something felt different. I figured it was excitement and nerves around doing my first jump with my own parachute on my back. Little did I know, I just met the man I would choose to spend the rest of my life with. So, Chapter 4 resources. The link is in the thing. It's also in your inbox. And if you aren't getting the emails, please let me know. Also, check your spam folder and make sure that we're added to your contacts. So you get emails from Sydney at Hiking My Feelings. I almost said a different email address. Sydney at hikingmyfeelings.com. So that way you don't miss the prompts if you're not getting those emails. So, Chapter 4, Thankful for Snaps. We just read it, so I'm not going to give you the summary. You already know this. But toilet paper icon, pretty self-explanatory now that you've heard me read the chapter. I almost pooped my pants on the trail. Thankful for Snaps. So if you'll remember, when I was originally getting dressed in the dressing room, I had this whole big dilemma about how the shirt didn't have buttons. It had snaps. And I was going back and forth about how I felt about that because the shirt wouldn't close properly. I was too fat for the shirt, but it was the closest size that would fit. And so I had this like vision of if this shirt had buttons, then the button would pop out, take Barry's eye out, and we'd be down an eye in a backcountry, and it was a whole big thing. And in this one, I was thankful for snaps because it was really easy to get the pants off and not so much the shirt, but the pants. So it was all good. So don't make the same mistakes that I did. Check. I include a link to the Leave No Trace principles. I'm going to read the first, the 7. We won't get too far into it, but in general, what I could have done better if I was prepared, I would have had a little shovel so I could dig a hole. I would have had just probably hand sanitizer to keep my hands clean. But as far as leaving no trace goes, I did the best I could with what I had and that I didn't leave my toilet paper behind. In a dream world, I would have dug a cat hole and then buried the poop, but I didn't have that kind of time, nor did I have the equipment. So the 7 principles of Leave No Trace, which for me, I appreciate Leave No Trace principles as it is. As an organization, they're funded mostly by corporations and they post a lot of questionable content because that content is sponsored by major corporations. So I don't know that they necessarily walk the walk all the time, especially in the world of what's going on with the internet and geotagging affecting public lands and private lands. So I'm just going to read the principles. These are good things to know. You should definitely leave no trace. As an organization, they leave a little bit to be desired for me, so I don't worship them by any stretch, but the principles are good and definitely something you should practice in the backcountry. So first one, plan ahead and prepare. That includes wearing shoes that fit. Travel and camp on durable surfaces, dispose of waste properly, leave what you find, minimize campfire impacts, respect wildlife, and be considerate of other visitors. Take those, run with them. Don't put too much merit into how they go ahead and enforce these things. So inspiration, intention, and integration this week. So the theme of this chapter was love for another. In this chapter, I share the story of how Barry and I met. I mentioned in the chapter that this was one of the things, the first time in a long time, that I had done for myself, not with any influence from anybody else. And I firmly believe that that is the reason why I met Barry when I met Barry, or my partner, whoever my partner was supposed to be. If you're sitting here and you don't have one and you want one, I think the theme to take away here is that when you start doing stuff for yourself and you show up to the activities that you want to do, not things that mom and dad said you should or things that your friends do, but you just tag along doing even though you don't really like it. When you get clear on an activity that you want to do and the kinds of people you want to spend time with, and you start surrounding yourself with people with like interests, you're more likely to find somebody who's going to be a good fit to spend some time with. So this whole chapter is about finding love for another person. And the affirmation this week is I give love freely and without expectation. So I say it's important to note that love with expectations is destined for failure. And I think one of the easiest ways we can see this in relationships, especially romantic ones, is up until a certain point, and maybe perhaps for our entire lives, unless you break free of it, we have a type. And for me, my type was sold to me by movies and TV and culture and stuff like that. I wanted to date, and the only kinds of guys that I was attracted to because of all the things that I watched was guys that were 6'4", played lacrosse or baseball, and that was my type, and they're usually white, and that was it. And as I got out in the world and I started noticing like, oh, there's lots of people who are awesome human beings that don't fit that profile, then I was able to expand my friend circle. I met this incredible human named Barry Williams who, like, if I was so married to my type that I thought I had, I wouldn't have even considered a romantic possibility with this person. But when you get into a situation where you're doing things for yourself outside of the influence of other people, then you can arrive at conclusions and make decisions for yourself based on what you actually want, not what everybody has told you should want. So that was a huge, huge revelation for me, in that I was just attracted to the energy of this person and the physical package did not matter. And as that came together, I realized, like, one, I'm incredibly attracted to this person, and two, we've been together, I legit believe, for lifetimes before this one. And how the body manifests doesn't matter. I'm attracted to the energy. And now that I've separated myself from all the people that I thought I wanted to be friends with, or that I was entered into a relationship with without any choice, like my family, people that are like geographically close to you, where just like they're friendships of convenience. As I've moved around, as I've, expanded who I am and grown into a different person, I've come to realize that, like, the people in my life right now are beautiful energetic matches. And as a result, it's one of the most diverse, like, as I look at my group of friends and chosen family right now, it's one of the most diverse, beautiful, uplifting, empowering groups of people I've ever had the chance to be in community with. So when you start picking things for yourself and you start defining what you actually care about, like attracts like, and you'll find your people. So there's that. So the prompt for this week, if you're sharing photos in the Facebook group, which I would love to see more of, so please feel free to do that. This week we're saying pick a photo that represents love and let the prompts below inspire your caption. So the prompts for this week are: if you have a partner, do you remember the day you met? If you don't have a partner, imagine that you're in a safe, loving, and committed relationship. So how did you meet this person? What kind of qualities does this partner possess? How do they challenge you to be a better person? Notice I'm not saying, like, what do they look like? Because it doesn't matter. Like, when you think about the kinds of people you want to be spending time with, like, what do you need in a relationship and what can you offer? And then all the things that you've learned along the way, like all the relationships that have failed really aren't a reflection of you. It's just an opportunity to understand what you do and don't want. So if a relationship failed and you miss something about that person, add it to the list of qualities that you enjoy. If you get done with a relationship, you're like, wow, never again this kind of quality, then now you know that that's something that you don't seek in a partner to spend time with. So everyone has different needs when it comes to this kind of stuff. So in the Bring It Home section, I link to love languages, and knowing yours, knowing your partner's. If you're a parent, learn your child's love language and learn to speak it, because then they can, like, you can actually communicate and have a relationship with your kids. Because if you're all just talking in circles about the only language you know how to speak, then that's how disconnection happens. That's how abandonment feelings happen. Even when there's no physical abandonment, emotional abandonment is real. So the second that we can all learn about what we need, learn what you need first and foremost, and how you show love and how you express it, and then allow the people that speak that language to be attracted to you, instead of like forcing weird stuff that doesn't communicate well. So the song of the week was called All For You. It's by a band called Stick Figure. Again, we're back on the Stick Figure this week. And on the email and on the resource page, there's a link to a YouTube video. Have a look at that. It's the ambient version. I'm obsessed with it. And I was telling Barry when we were watching it the other day, one, like, that video reminds me of how small we are and how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things in the universe. And two, if deep space sounds like Stick Figure, I'm totally down for that. So that is the overview of the resources this week. I'd love to hear some more about your prompts and how you're feeling. Some housekeeping type stuff, and if anybody has questions about previous weeks or this week, please put them in the comments. But some housekeeping stuff. So we are headed up to San Francisco next week. I am just really looking forward to seeing some chosen family. Barry's birthday's next week. He wouldn't tell you that, but I'm gonna. So on Saturday is Barry's birthday. And so we're just gonna go up there. I'm gonna get some writing done. We're hanging out with the Chosen fam, and then hopefully seeing a little concert for Barry's birthday. And when we get back, then we are jumping straight into the last like ramp up before we go on the tour. Like time has been flying since we've been home. So the newest addition to the calendar is we have 3 new events that we put up this week. The first one, or the first 2 are, we're doing the 5 Peak Challenge again. So if you're based in San Diego or Southern California and you want to do the 5 Peak Challenge at Mission Trails Regional Park, Barry and I did this in one day when we were training for the Trans-Catalina Trail back in 2018. It was awesome. I loved it. We tried to do it in one day last year. Didn't work out. I got super sick before the last 2 peaks. So we are breaking it up over 2 weekends. On the 22nd, we are doing Cowles and Piles. And then on the 29th, we're doing North and South Fortuna and Quaipe Peak. And the way the 5 Peak Challenge works is we go do I'm doing this like a hike and sign event. So we'll do a reading at the trailhead. We'll go do the hike. We'll come back down. I'll sign books. And the way the 5 Peak Challenge in particular works is when we get to each summit, they all have signs and we take a selfie at the summit. And then when we get done with the 5 Peak Challenge on the 29th, what we'll do is we'll go to the visitor center, we'll show them our selfies, and then you get a certificate saying that you completed the 5 Peak Challenge. Like that's how they verify that you did it. So the first one I think is 7 miles and the second one is 10, or vice versa. So it's a little bit longer than the stuff we've been doing so far this year, which is good for you. If you like longer hikes, please come join us. And if you're working up towards those kinds of distances, feel free to join us for as little or as much as you want. If you just want to join us for one peak each weekend because you're like ramping up to it, we'd love to have you. And both of those nights we're also doing the campouts. And just to share a little bit of the format of what the campouts are like for anybody that's been reading about it and has been thinking about participating but hasn't yet. So if you do a camp out with us, we go and we do the book reading, we go do the hike, we do the book signing, and then when we get done, we go and we grab food, grab a lunch, brunch, depending on what time we get done. And then if it's a later day, then we'll just go straight back to the ranch and we'll have a family style dinner. We'll make some s'mores. We'll chat around the campfire. Some people want to do journaling. Some people just want to like converse. So around the campfire is where that naturally happens. And then Sunday morning, while Barry's getting breakfast ready, if you're coming out to an event at the ranch, and these will shift as we move this event series around the country on the tour, but if you're coming out to the ranch at the end of February on Sunday morning, we wake up, grab our journals, go out to the mountains, and I have a journaling exercise that you do and a little like surprise thing that I will send to you later. But that is like the reason that you should come. It's not a surprise, I'll just tell you. So one of the journaling exercises that I'm super obsessed with is called future pulling. And that's where you pick a date in the future and you write a journal entry as if you've just experienced that day. And I like to do this when I'm feeling like discouraged about where I'm at with things with hiking my feelings or life or goals or whatever. So I pick a date in the future where I've already accomplished a goal. So one of the ones that I did in the last couple weeks was about what happens after the retreat. So after we get done with the retreat on Catalina Island, I write a blog post as if we've just done the retreat and it's gone as well as I could have possibly imagined. So I get into my senses. So I'm like, okay, it's Sunday morning. It's Monday morning. We just finished this retreat. Last night, Kaleo played a bunch of music. Like, what am I feeling Monday morning? Well, I'm hungry. So I had, like, what did I go eat? What did I wake up, like, feeling like? How does my body feel? What am I doing? What did I do the day after this retreat that we've been planning for over a year? Like, getting into all the senses. What are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you seeing? Who's with you? Where are you going? What are you wearing? All of that stuff. What are you tasting? Get really into the specifics. The coolest thing that I've ever seen on how this works is I did a retreat. I coordinated one for a woman I was working with back in 2015, and it was hosted in Miami. And I was like, you know what? When we get done with this retreat, like, I just want to sit on the beach on a patio somewhere and drink some champagne and eat some delicious food. And then the Sunday that the retreat ended, I found myself at the Fontainebleau in Miami in South Beach, and I was just like sitting there with a bottle of champagne in the ice, hair blowing in the wind, like sun on my face, and I was just like, This is exactly how I wrote about this, and now it's here. So a lot of people like they'll call it The Secret, they'll call it the Law of Attraction, you can call it whatever you want. For me, I consider it I'm writing my own story. So I write the best story I could possibly want to live, and then I just take steps necessary to make sure that that's how it plays out, because there's nothing that says that they can't go that well. So when you have these intentions and you set this like vision for what you want to do, it is makes everything a lot more fun. And then when you get to that point, you're like, oh dang, this is cool. So the exercise we do is we go through that future polling exercise, and you can talk about it verbally, you can go write about it, you can do whatever. But we have postcards that we send out with all the books and stuff like that. And what we're doing now is you write on a postcard like a note to yourself 3 months from now. So we'll mail this postcard to you in 90 days, and you can like see how far you've come in that period of time. So it's a really cool way to set goals. It's a really cool way to just like dream a little bit bigger than you're used to dreaming on a daily basis. So that's what we do Sunday morning. So that's the whole like hike and camp out thing, and that's kind of the format that we'll be taking on the road too for some of our camp outs that we're doing around the country as we get the book tour scheduled. So 22nd and 29th, those are the next two campouts that we're doing, and those are the last two that we're doing in Southern California before we go on my book tour. So once we get up to March, we're going up to LA, Orange County area. So I've got book signings in Long Beach, Tustin, Burbank. I'm speaking at an event called Shine in Orange County on the 7th. And the one that I'm really excited about that we just got like officially confirmed yesterday is Desert in Real Life, which is an event series that Gabriella Gabachia, who's in this group, who we met on tour last year, is coordinating through the Desert Institute at Joshua Tree National Park, which is the primary. So the Joshua Tree National Park Association is the primary like charity organization that works with the park, and the Desert Institute is the educational component of that. So when we met Gabby in Montana, she said that she had this idea for an event series to get more millennials out into the parks and visiting, because a lot of the people that participate in education classes at national parks are retirees, or they're older, or they're like not younger and still working. Like there's just a lot of folks that aren't going to parks that they want to see, like people like us coming to the parks and doing stuff and learning stuff. So she's putting together a bunch of different experiences, and we're kicking it off with Hike and Heal in Joshua Tree National Park, which is Hiking My Feelings workshop. So it's the story how hiking helped me heal my mind and body, similar to what we were doing on tour. And then we go for we're doing a hike on the panoramic loop, which is 6.5 miles around Joshua Tree National Park, and we'll do some of the mindfulness exercises there. We'll talk through some of the prompts in the back of the book there, and then when we get done, it's also Pie Day, so we're going to see if like Pappy and Harriet's, which is just outside of Joshua Tree, it's a really cool little venue. I'm going to see if they sell some pie, so maybe we can get some pie on Pie Day after we get done hiking around Joshua Tree. But Joshua Tree was the first national park that I visited ever. It was the first park that Barry and I went to together too, and it was where I got like my first really good night's sleep after all the stuff that went down in like 2014, 2015. Barry and I went there for it was the first stop on our road trip around California, and then it was it was the last camp out that we did before we went on the Trans-Catalina Trail the first time. So the park means a lot to me. I had originally wanted to hike Ryan Mountain because that's where Adam hiked, and that's the only video that I have with Adam's voice in it that I know of is Adam on top of Ryan Mountain having just completed that hike, and he's just kind of like looking around and talking to the camera. So I wanted to go and hike that mountain, but just the mountain itself is very popular, and for the size group that we're going to have, it just doesn't make sense to try to keep everybody together on a very popular trail. So if you're interested in coming out to Joshua Tree, if you have questions about the class, I will post that link in the group. Yeah, so that is everything we've got going on for February into March, and then the retreats at the end of March. So if you haven't signed up for that and you want to, please do, because those spots are going quickly, faster than I thought they would. So if you're interested in joining us for the retreat at the end of March with Kaleo, who's the lead singer from Pepper. He also plays guitar for the band, and his wife Melanie. They are doing healing Reiki, like campfire Reiki at the end of the day, morning yoga, and their Kaleo's doing a concert at the end of the event on Sunday evening. So we have a few spots left for that. If you guys would like to join us, we'd love to have you. If you are looking for a payment plan, we also do have that available as well. So if the cost up front is what's holding you back, please send me a DM or send me an email, and we can get you on a payment plan so you can join us, because I know $750 in one lump sum is a lot of money for a lot of people. So if you need some assistance on breaking that up so you can make it happen, let me know. And if you don't have gear for that, we do offer comfort camping, which means that they will set up the tent for you, and that includes your tent, your cot, your sleeping bag, your sleeping pad, and a little lantern. So all you need to do is like grab a backpack, grab some water and some snacks, and they'll do the rest for you. Like, they're cooking the food, they can set up the tent for you. It's all good. So if you have questions about anything, if you need extra support, if you are feeling feelings, anything like that, you know where to find me. Send me an email, send me a direct message, leave comments here. I look forward to seeing your pictures of love, whatever that means to you. That could be love for another human, it could be love for another creature, it could be love for another place, but love that happens outside of ourselves. And go ahead and let me know what you're working on this week, because I would love to hear what you guys have going on, because I tell you all the time what I'm doing, but I would love to hear about your goals, what you guys got going on, and how we can support you in that. So have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you guys in, I'll be back later. All right, cool. Peace.